So this Azis Ansari show that Daniel brought to my attention.
Holy crap! Great. What used to be a great show.
You did like the Masters
of None? Yeah, I like Masters of None.
Yeah, it wasn't really my thing, but I don't think it wasn't specifically the worst. But the craziest thing, so
it is. By the way, the season 3 is specifically the worst. It wasn't specifically the worst. Season 3 is specifically the worst.
You guys know the known rapist is he's
known bad date goer on her.
The most racist man in Hollywood. Is
so funny because like basically that's what ended up sticking with him is he's bad on dates. He like took this girl out to some lovely dinner at some like super swanky restaurant,
right?
And then he's like the bad date guy.
Yeah.
Even though you're like, though most people saw that and they go, sounds like a pretty nice date, actually.
Laid it down.
Yeah, he's like, seems like a really nice date.
Went
he's
down
like,
date with a celebrity and he paid for everything.
He's thoughtful. He brought you out to some cool place. Brought you back to his place.
Kind of,
you
right?
know? Seems like a pretty sweet date, actually.
Well, so basically they fight because everyone. Azis Ansari had all this stuff happen. Some journalist who I actually know, a good friend of this journalist. So the journalist who took down Azis Ansari did the date. She was like been working at this place for like not that long.
It's like a blog, right?
Yeah.
It's like some shitty.
Went on a D with Azis Ansari and then, or no, it wasn't her, but then she broke the fucking thing, or maybe it was her. Actually, I don't know the story as well as I said.
I remember.
As I was saying,
the girl,
I thought it was the journalist.
No. The girl who said she went on the date was, I believe, anonymous.
Okay,
she didn't even reveal herself.
This girl broke the story then, and I think this was one of those ones where Azis Ansari kind of handled it by going out there and essentially being like, no, all this stuff is great, but I'm good. Yeah, like he was like, no, you nailed it. Like all this mob stuff, men are all rapists. Mm-hmm. That is correct. I'm just not. You're wrong about this one.
Yeah.
The same with Lena Dunham did the same thing where when they went in on her friends, they go, no, you guys are bang on right. Me too. Believe every single accuser. My buddy Carl, I believe her buddy's name was Carl.
Carl.
He's right. So that's kind of the
hot Carl.
My buddy Hot Carl. But then the article that came out, it literally said, how Master of None handles its Azis Ansari problem. Isn't that amazing? Article title?
It's like, you mean the show that he created that?
I wish that, yeah, right?
That would not exist without him? Sounds like a nice problem.
So the gist of what happened was they decided to do a third season and he's basically not in it.
Yeah, he's not in it.
Which is
I think
insanity.
he's in it briefly. I couldn't get to that part of him being in it because it was so fucking bad. Okay, so I told you about this. I'm sure maybe some people have seen it. So you turn on Master of None. You go, oh, okay. They're like the show that Azis Ansari was on. First, and so there's that girl, Lena Waite or whatever, the black lesbian chick who was like a actor on the show. And so the first like 10 minutes of the show is her with her like girlfriend. And they're just like doing really mundane, nothing's going on, just like really like mundane, like housewife, whatever, house stuff, domestic shit. And then I'm watching, I'm like, did I click on the wrong show? Like, I don't know what I'm watching. Like, I honestly was like, it's not a comedy. It's like, it's a shitty, like fucking college, like art film bullshit. Shit. You're like, first year, like, your final project or whatever. I'm like, what am I watching? And then I went and Googled and they're like, oh, they booted him off the show. They just like kept the name of it and gave it to somebody else.
So we were discussing why. And my thoughts were twofold. One is that Azis Ansari probably has the rights to this show. Yeah. So he owns a big chunk and he has some crazy deal. So he thinks this show's not going to be able to do it good or have all this, it's going to have all this problems if he's in it. But if he's not in it and he puts it out, it's kind of like, I think even when like Brian Callen had that thing, he was like, I'm going to step down off the podcast because I still make half the money and it's going to be 1,000 times more successful if we get my name off it.
Yeah.
So it's like, so Azis Ansari's like option one, it's this big problem if I'm on it, or option two, I make all the money and I'm not on it. Mm-hmm. So that's one. But I think it's even worse than that because Azis Ansari's still the director and writer.
Oh, so he is the writer and director of it.
Right.
So this is actually kind of him, like, this is like an apology kind of thing.
Exactly, because Azis Ansari's take on this whole thing is just like, no, dude, all of this is right. I'm just wrong. So he's going to go out there in the show. My guess would be sort of addressing the stuff he did. And his take will be like, I only did a tiny little bit, kind of what he did in his special. He's like, I feel really fucking bad. And I actually was in the wrong. Luckily, what I did wasn't as bad as other people. So you can probably forgive me kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is what it says. It was only rational that after a reason I brought this article up is it makes me laugh, like the way that these people see this, where in their mind it's
this is a total bait and switch. I'm looking at it right now, and it says it's actually called Master of None presents Moments in Love. But like on Netflix, you don't see anything about moments in love.
No,
it just says Masters of None.
It was only rational that after a widely publicized Me Too scandal and re-examining the Azis Ansari's comedic performance, the return of his critically acclaimed show, Master of None, would be completely revamped and almost recognizable. I hate these people so much. It's literally, you go, well, for starters, at first start, they go, what actually happened and was he guilty? He wasn't proven guilty of anything in a court of law. He wasn't really proven guilty. And it's like,
I mean, even the court of public opinion kind of adjudicated that he was in the right. Like they eventually, the court of public opinion was like, oh yeah, he didn't really do anything.
He was a big like wake up call for girls.
Yeah.
Where they're like, this is, I know a ton of girls that were like, oh, this is getting out of hand with this Aziz stuff.
For sure.
And they go, it's only rational that we re-examine him and he's kicked off his show. And you go, these people see fucking celebrities and stuff just as enemies, right?
Yeah.
So if you think that, where you just see anyone that's in the art or any man as an enemy, it's like any fucking accusation, like it's only reasonable that you disappear.
Yeah, just literally go away forever because you went on a bad date.
Yeah.
That was like apparently not.
Well, it's unclear if taking his character out of the picture was the route as Ansari would have taken if he hadn't had the
How are you fucking writing that as a human? Like, how are you a serious person? You're a journalist. He goes, you know what? It's at this juncture, it's unclear whether he would have written himself out of the show that he created to star in. He might have. You know, it's a pretty common thing. Third season of a hit show, just write yourself out of it. Why?
50-50 chance.
It's like, you know, imagine writing third season of Seinfeld review. You go, honestly, I thought there was a good chance this season he was going to write himself out of the show completely. But good thing you stuck
pretty
around.
Common stuff.
Yeah, pretty common. Just, you know, just
it's unclear.
Extricate yourself from the show you created.
I'm going to go on a limb and say it's fairly clear.
Hit show, too. This isn't like some fucking nothing show where you're like, you're not like Aunt Viv and your new character or whatever. Like, this is a fucking, like, you're the star of a
and
hit
you're the
show.
Star of it.
Like Emmy nominate, win best comedy, all this stuff.
They're not clear though.
Is this pink news?
No. It was perhaps the only way to keep the show going without Ansari casting him a huge shadow over the project. Yeah, you think? Okay. Whether or not fans of the show are eager to dive back into Ansari's work, he's the sole creator and co-director of every episode with Lena Waithe. So there might be stuff behind the scenes where this girl goes, you know, I'm going to get blasted from working with you. So you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's all this kind of stuff where, and that's why I'm saying we need more testosterone running through your veins, because you're going to have some chick being like, hey, and you got to go to be, listen, woman, like, I didn't fucking douche. You need to be, you know.
The funny thing is, like, the probably most testosterone guy on that show is Eric Wareheim. You go, Eric, come on, step up. And he goes,
The highest T guy in that show is Eric Wareheim. Yeah. Or the girl of the fucking lesbian.
Or the lesbian chick, yeah.
He makes an arguably wise and strategic choice to relieve the audience of having to deal with the presence on screen. Can you imagine the emotional roller coaster of fucking...
When you turn on the show that he's the star of, you literally go, Master of None, you go... He's in this? Are you fucking serious? This fucking guy is in the show?
Are you fucking kidding me?
Like, I literally turned it on to see him. Like, that's why I go Master of None. I was like, Azis Ansari's back. Good for him.
Imagine being the guy. You turn on the TV, having to deal with that emotional roller coaster.
Just seething that the idea that the guy who's...
He's in this?
Excuse me?
Holy shit. He makes an arguably wise. Okay. So, but yeah, so their argument is because they think everyone's them, right? They think every person turns on the TV and they're just like scrolling through the cast and credits to make sure that no one's had an infraction in the court of public opinion.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. So he shortened his role to a cameo. And however, his real life transgressions might have addressed this. He might have addressed this through his, I'm kind of confused where they go. And however, his real life transgressions might have been addressed through his analog, or more appropriately, Bobby Carnival's character, Jeff, who's been sexually accused in season 2. So they did a sexually accusing thing.
But that was before.
Yeah. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that their sexual accusing plot line that they did in the old season was pretty pro girl.
Yeah.
It wasn't like,
I don't think it was.
It wasn't like a bitches be lying.
Yeah. It wasn't Bobby Cannavale being like, yeah, I fucked her. I don't care if she didn't want it. And then Aziz Ansari's like, dude, let me smell your fingers. Yeah, let me smell your fingers.
Let me smell your fingers.
Let me smell them.
Yeah, fucked her.
That sounds like fucking something Aziz Ansari would say.
So yeah, he's still directing it. And then they sort of are squeaking it into the plot line a little bit. So you're right. It's the Apollo. It's all part of his like image, like reimbursement apology. To
he's straight up saying like, I'm, making, but like, why even just get your producer credit and fucking, I wonder if he was contractually obligated to make a 3rd season.
No, that's not the case. But
not
maybe they wanted it. But he's definitely not contractually obligated to do anything after those kind of issues. You need literally to bake all that insurance stuff into your clause, though, that if people want to get rid of you. For Aziz Ansari, Moments in Love is mainly a chance to prove the weight of his 4-year absence as an auteur at a time that many people argued with the problematic men. Many people argued that the work of problematic men is never really that vital. So it's a time when everyone's arguing that the work of problematic men, it's like whether they're problematic or not problematic is irrelevant for whether the work was vital. And more importantly, no one's fucking work is vital.
Yeah. I mean, not in fucking, not storytelling.
No one's work is you're right. Your work in cancer research might be vital.
Yeah, it's like someone else.
5 people's, because most people, the truth is, you work at a big place. Like the actual brains behind operations solving things is few and far between. And if not, it would have just been someone else doing that same research. But no one's work is vital. People seem to like it. It is kind of this like weird like collectivist way of looking at morality that they have too, where they sort of say. Whether it's vital, like, sorry, but it's like whether someone's work, whether the population needs it a lot. Like none of this is like, hey, are we allowed to have the freedom to do whatever we want? And it's like, we need to decide whether the public needs to hear this, right? You know what I mean? It's like how they kind of look. It's like how they communist everything.
Yeah. For 100%. Which article are you reading, by the way? Fox?
How Master of None handles its Aziz Ansari problem.
Oh, no, this is called.
Okay. And there's a few of them though. There's a few people that cover this, but the last sentence in this one was, there were like 3 different articles, and they say Denise and Alicia's outwardly idyllic domestic wife. So this is someone who did a review on it. We watched long takes and the couple folding laundry. This is what Daniel said. You said it was just like them sitting in a bathtub for 10 minutes at a time.
Like nothing happening. Like not even like dialogue. It was like just garbage art.
Chatting over meals and friends, having random middle of the night conversations. It's the kind of stripped down authentic treatment that Black and queer film lovers on social media have been demanding themselves in light of relationship crisis genre.
50,000 of them.
Yeah, it is this weird thing where it's like they say
like black and queer.
Yeah. Well, okay, first of all, Black people do not like this garbage.
No, fuck no,
dude. I see fucking Black chick lesbians.
Yeah, go. Let's go do a screening of Masters of None at the Apollo. See how that does.
You know who I told you this, but Shantae Wayans was at the fucking stand.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out with her, and she's like very cool, and she's like a Black lesbian chick that does a lot about Black lesbians. So, but she ain't. There's like, I see if you go hardcore like this avant-garde, like, super hipster Black like lesbian thing, it's like this isn't like popular in the Black community. When I first moved here, I did a few Black shows. Like out in far now, a lot of them are too far for me. Like, or you go up to Harlem,
Queens or something.
Dude, I don't do the white shows or Black shows that are that far, but there isn't a ton.
I remember the first show I did.
Pair is sort of the
first show I did here was fucking in New York when I moved to New York. Was remember we went up to Harlem, or not Harlem, to Queens with Steve. No, you were there. Steve's show.
Yeah.
And it was like that weird, just like pizza parlor.
But every now and then there'll be like that kind of like hipster woke fucking and the Black people hate that shit, so they don't like this.
No.
And I guess queer people probably like it. That's probably. But then what does it have to do with the fact that it's Black? Because it's just like a queer people in general.
I could see maybe girls liking it. I have a theory because like so. This
but it is like no one.
This Vox article basically said that it sucked, and obviously Vox would pretty much give them kid gloves, being like this is the best regardless. And Vox straight up said it sucked, and then they're saying how like Aziz, like it's all artfully done, but like there's no jokes, there's not even like intent at jokes. And part of me is like, I wonder if Aziz Ansari, because he directed it and he co-wrote it, like he's like, you know what? Like, remember Seinfeld where Jerry's like, I'm going to take a dive? I honestly have a feeling that Aziz Ansari's like, yeah, you want to fucking take my thing?
He took a dive.
He took a dive. Honestly, I think this is because he's like, you know what? I'm just a director.
I'll give you everything you want.
But he's also like, I'm not known as a director. Here's my like contrition. I'll give you my show, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to make this the biggest piece of shit.
You think he took a dive?
I honestly, my theory right now is reading this. I'm like, he took a dive on it. He goes, this is going to be such a piece of shit. And this will make people understand that you just don't just like take my show and just like repackage it to fuck me over.
That would be a based ass move though.
I think that is what happened.
I hope so.
He probably got a huge check from Netflix. And he's like,
getting a check for
and
diving.
Nobody's ever going to criticize him for being like, oh, remember Master of None? That was a real season 3. That was a real piece of shit, huh, Aziz? He's like, yeah.
Yeah, the one I wasn't in?
Yeah, the one that I basically got like strong armed out of doing. And it was like some lesbian love story. That had
it used to be good when you were in it. And he goes, yeah, I know.
Yeah, weird, huh? Huh. Yeah, it was really bad, huh?
Yeah.
Season 3. All the artsy bullshit wasn't good.
Interesting.
Huh, weird.
So if that's the case, yo, props to Ansari.
Oh yeah, I mean,
should. If he was smart, he would do a show where he brought his cousin back or whatever. What's his cousin's name?
Oh,
the guy that
not Dev.
Kara. I don't know.
No, it's like an Indian name.
He had some. Yeah. That was in all his old bits. He had his all about texting his cousin.
Yeah,
so
and he's like, oh my god.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name though.